So I think it actually really reflects personal journey, kind of as you said. So when I got into psychology initially, I told you it was like, I want to understand myself. And it was quite like behavioral, quite neuroscience, quite just like, I want answers. I want things to be black and white. And I loved the fact I had to take whatever it was, chemistry and biology and whatever. I can't even remember all the courses I had to take. And I liked it because it gave me kind of a false sense of structure and safety and like, this is the truth. And I think that's what undergraduate programs usually do. You walk away being like, I know everything. Then you go to grad school, you're like, I know nothing. So I think that fit my personality really well because I was like, I'm excelling and I'm getting concrete answers. And now I feel like I have figured the life out. Cute. And then I started, actually after my my undergrad, what people don't know is I sort of burnt out a little bit because it was just so much that I was like, maybe I want to go into medicine and be like a neurosurgeon. So after my degree, I applied to pre-med. I think I went to like 2 months of courses and I was like, this is so boring. And then I applied to grad school immediately. So it was, I think I was just burnt out and trying to be like, what other career path can I do instead of just like maybe take a year off and relax and then go back to doing what you love. And then I started grad school, and this was a really pivotal moment in my life because I started really young. I think I was 22 years old. And I entered the world of sort of psychotherapy and counseling, and things were less black and white. And things really, something they worked on in my program, which was beautiful, was they wanted therapists that had their shit together. And that doesn't mean you were perfect, but they made you process. Like, I remember writing 30-page essays every single week or whatever it was of like my own processing, because they're like, otherwise, you're going to project, impose all that on your client. And so they really, really valued personal work and then also academic rigor. And I remember just that was the first time I ever started truly doing something like that, to that capacity. And then during my grad school, I got exposed to existential analysis. And I remember sitting in one of the trainings and I was already like, you know, when like the crack is happening and it's like, I had this facade, I had this like, I'm fine. And it just started like cracking during grad school. And I remember sitting in this training for existential analysis and we were talking about like values and like, what value do you see in your life? And like, is your life kind of worth living? Like, why do you wake up in the morning sort of thing? And it was the first moment we were like sitting in a circle and I was like, holy shit, I don't like my life. Like, I think because the last 5 years I was praised for how well I was doing and I finally felt like I had a thing and I was whatever. I was like, wow. And I like try to ignore it, but it was really like I was reading more and more existential literature and I was like, it was getting harder and harder to ignore. And so eventually in my 20s, I guess if you read my book, you'll see I have this massive breakdown. I started developing panic attack disorder, essentially. That lasted for a couple of years. Then I tried everything I could, deep breathing and whatever to get rid of it. It didn't help, therapy. And then she was like, you know, your panic attacks are a messenger. And until you change something, it's telling you to change, you're probably going to keep having them. And that's when I started sort of dismantling my life piece by piece, brick by brick, and realizing that a lot of it, the way I structured my life was a trauma response. And so after that, I was like, well, of course, psychology is more in the gray. And of course, the human, like there's a distinction between the brain and the mind. And, you know, what is the essence of the soul? And like I started asking these very different questions. And I used to be very like, I love Freudian. He's so deterministic. And now I'm like, well, and then I used to love CBT because it was like a nice little checklist of how to cure someone. And then I'm like, well, I think CBT tools are fantastic. But I just started to sort of question all these things. And at the start of your master's, you have to write a paper of like, how do you conceptualize human suffering? What theories do you think you're going to like embrace? And near the end, I was a complete opposite. It was a 180. just because of my personal experience. And the one thing they told you was that you should practice in a way that's most authentic and aligned with you and how you experience the world. You trying to just use tools from a modality that has nothing to do with your personal experience actually makes it quite hard. And so I completely switched into existentialism. And then because of that, I did the doctorate that I did. And so there's no way I would have, like, 16-year-old Sarah would be looking at me and being like, you're crazy. And it was due to that personal transformation that then something else aligned. And it was different than what aligned when I was, 22.